Hello, U.S. wineries, and happy Friday the 13th. I'm Ann Reynolds, owner of Wine Compliance Alliance here in Napa, California. And this video I'm sharing with you, this is applicable, it's actually applicable to all of you U.S. wineries. But for sure, you in the younger bunch, you've heard me talk about in previous videos. I actually shared about this same TTB update back towards the end of 2017 because the TTB has been telling us this is going to happen, and it hasn't happened, but it really truly looks like it's going to happen this time. So they are making some major updates to their TTB Permits Online system. Like I just said, any of you who are younger, meaning that you obtained your original TTB permit as a winery after 2011. There's a good chance that hopefully you did so using TTB Permits Online. Sorry, any of you who have been around in business as a TTB permitted winery since before 2011, you are all in what I refer to as the paper world, but there's actually some good news updates for all of you as well. So it's everybody across the board. It's all U.S. wineries that obviously then hold a TTB basic permit as a winery. So first and foremost, any of you who already have been using TTB Permits Online, you just need to be aware that they're going to be shutting it down. So it'll be unavailable, let's see, July 25th through July 30th. So just FYI, some heads up if you have some amendment filings or you were planning on submitting a new application. As you see here, they've given you some specific dates. July 17th is the last day you can submit an amendment type of application. July 25th is the last day to submit an original type of application. Again, it'll be unavailable, although this one kind of conflicts with up here, because up here it says it'll be shut down from July 25th through July 30th. And then July 31st is when, ta-da, they're going to release the brand new and improved, we shall see, version of Permits Online. So why is this potentially good news for any of you who already were using TTB Permits Online, and then that big chunk of the rest of you who are still been in the paper world? Well, we'll see. I would say from my own observation interacting with TTB Permits Online, TTB pay.gov, and the TTB COLAs online. So this is their 3 electronic platforms, which covers basically all 3 areas that we interact with them for permits, for reporting, that's pay.gov, and then of course COLAs online is for your label approvals. My perspective interacting with all 3 of those platforms is that they've continued, they have an ongoing, tweaking, like assessing and tweaking and making updates / improvements to those websites from, to make it's run more smoothly for both all of us as the users, and I'm sure obviously as well as for the staff, TTB staff on the receiving end, managing all these applications, because they get a wave of them all the time, just from us, wine, because obviously we're just one that they're regulating. They're obviously regulating distilled spirits and beer. So this, as you see, is the TTB's webpage talking about the new Permits Online. They just posted this a couple of days ago. And again, the new version will be available July 31st. So in a couple of weeks here. And any of you who already have, like myself, a Permits Online account, obviously you're gonna, we're all gonna shift to the new system. So they talk about what are some of the changes that we're gonna see, and a couple of them caught my eye that I thought I'd point out to you. This one right here, this auto approval of certain amendments. And these are a couple of ones that are pretty common in the wine world. So the first one is that labeling trade name request. A trade name, for any of you who aren't sure what I'm talking about, is directly connected to any of your wine label, and therefore your wine label approval, your COLA submissions. Trade name is a TTB term for the whatever words appear on a wine label after that statement that, for example, might read, produced and bottled by. So, for example, if I'm submitting a label, wine label for TTB label approval, and on that label it says produced and bottled by XYZ Cellars, comma, Napa, California. XYZ Cellars is what the TTB would call a trade name. And for many, many wineries, they are, submitting their label approvals, throughout the year. And certainly for any winery site that brings in, processes, custom crushes wine for their clients, they're bottling their wines, and depending on what's on that label, in that statement, there might be a new trade name, a new label. They made the changes to it, or they're bottling a wine for the first time, so they've got this new trade name, right? And often in the past, what was happening for you is that you were submitting this new label for a TTB label approval, and it was getting stopped in the COLA review process, and they would stop it because that new trade name was not connected to your winery's TTB permit. So that's one of their, they're now changing that to what an auto approval. So as you can see, they state it right there. We recognize the importance of having label trade name amendments approved in a timely manner. Soon, most labeling trade name amendments will be automatically approved. If the requested trade name passes certain system checks, your trade name amendment will be approved instantly. So that sounds pretty cool right there. I think that's very smart on their end to do that. With that intent that it makes our lives easier and their lives easier. And then another auto approval type of amendment, a mailing address change. So that's smart. The other area that I wanted to point out to all of you, which again I think is smart on the TTB's end, is this one, key contacts. So with this update to the Permits Online system, they will now require that you designate at least one owner or officer of the business as a key contact. Now, for example, my office submits new TTB applications all the time. I am listed as a contact for those applications. What they are now telling us is that somebody else directly connected to the business, a manager or an officer or somebody like that who is literally an employee or an owner of the winery business, will need to be listed as a key contact. And I think that's smart, because that means that, as time goes on, and for example, Perhaps my office is not working with a winery anymore. I help them get their TTB permit. I use Permits Online to set it up, but then time goes on and they are now managing all their winery compliance themselves, or perhaps working with another office. But they, as a winery, because we set up this requirement, we designated Joe, the winery manager, or the winery, the CEO or the president on the corporation as a contact, then they will then have access to their complete TTB Permits Online application file, which is very smart. And then the final item, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, is that all of you who have been around since before 2011, all of you in that paper world, as I've always called it, you're going to be able to start using Permits Online. So that's, I think, very huge, because up until now, if any of you in that paper world had to submit an amendment of any kind for your TTB permit application, you had no option but to type up all the forms, print them out in hard copy, sign them, print them out in hard copy in duplicate, as any of you have been involved, that's how it works. And then you had to send them back snail mail or FedEx or whatever you did to the TTB offices. And then they had to process your paper application and stamp it all, and then send you one of those completed sets back for your file. So you're not going to have, potentially not going to have to do that anymore. You're going to be able to have access to your complete application via Permits Online. And then moving forward, for any amendments, you're going to be able to log on to Permits Online, just like anybody who has already had a Permits Online application file, and submit any future amendments. So no more hard copy snail mail. So that's, I think, long overdue. I've been hearing about this honestly for years. So I am very pleased to see it finally actually coming into reality. So those are the main things I wanted to point out to you. But just so you know, I'm sure if you just run a search for TTB Permits Online or the New Permits Online, you'll find this page if you want to scroll through all their other updates. And like I said, it will launch on July 31st, so this month, a couple of weeks from now. And again, just a heads up that for any of you who do already use TTB Permits Online, that it will be shut down from the 25th of this month until the 30th of this month. So just FYI on that. Otherwise, I will be sharing in future videos some more details related to this new and improved version of TTB Permits Online. So as always, if you aren't already subscribed to this channel, make sure you do so to keep in that loop, and of course all my other ongoing TTB related sharing.